I'm Jer, and I make. Today, I'm going to make these simple drawers to store these wood scraps. I started out by removing the panels that hold my table saw station together and cutting a dado in them. These are 3/8 inch wide, 1/4 inch deep, and I'm cutting one every 1.5 inches. These will serve as the drawer slides for the drawers that I'm about to make. I had to just take these out one at a time and put them back in before I removed another one. Otherwise my table saw station would have fallen apart. So I've actually been doing this in a very unsafe way, and you might have been noticing. I've been referencing this side off the fence every time. So as the fence gets farther away, there gets to be more and more chance that this is going to try to twist and the blade's going to try to pull this back and cause it to kick back. And here's why I know. So don't worry, I still have all 10 fingers, I'm uninjured. But the better way to do this is when I get halfway across, I should be flipping this around and starting back at this side and going across again until I get to the middle. And that keeps it closer to the fence, which of course is a lot safer. So this is how I should have been doing it all along. So there I'm lining up the blade to the last dado I made and going back across. So now I'll get started on the drawer bottoms. This is 3/8 inch Baltic birch plywood, and I'm cutting it to 27 inches to start with, which is the depth of the drawers. Now I'm cutting it to just a little wider than what I think I need, and I'm trying it in the slots. And it needs to fit in every slot, so that one's a little too tight. So I'll just shave off about a 32nd and try it again. And that looks like it works. So now I just went ahead and tried it in every slot to be sure it worked everywhere. Now I'll cut 14 more drawer bottoms to the exact same width. Now I'm getting started on the drawer sides. This is 1/2 inch birch plywood, and I cut it across the grain first. So that gives me the length, and now I'm cutting the width. And right there, you can see I flipped the sheet, and I'm doing that every few cuts, just to make sure I don't get any accumulation of error or an angle after a few cuts. So right there, I cut a piece to width for the backs, and now cutting more sides. Now this will be the backs, and I'm cutting the larger dimensions first and then cutting them to width. Now I'm getting started on the fronts of the drawers. This is 3/4 inch birch plywood. I'm cutting them all to width. And now cutting them all up to the proper height. Some of the drawers are 1.5 inches, some are 3, and some are 4.5. Now I'm setting my blade to exactly a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to cut a rabbet along the bottom of those. I'm just taking a series of cuts here. Here I'm running the fence 0.8 of an inch from the blade. Now I'm doing basically the same things on the ends of these pieces, but I'm running them side to side to get a really nice smooth finish. And I do that to both ends. Now I can start assembling the drawers. So I'll start by gluing the front onto the bottom, and it gets glued on in that rabbet. I'm checking the distance from the side, and then just holding that with some brad nails. We'll use a compass to draw a reference mark along the side. And then I'm gluing one of the sides in. I'm just using some clamps to keep it from scooting around. And now just holding that with some nails. And the exact same procedure for the other side, except this time I'm using the back as a spacer to make sure I get the spacing right at the back. Now the plywood I'm using is pre-finished. It doesn't need to be for this, but it's just what I had. So I'm scraping off the finish so I get a good glue joint. And then just gluing the back in place. And again, holding it with some brad nails. That's one done and 14 to go. Now I'm going to get started on the poles. So I'm just gluing some strips of wood along a wider strip of wood to give kind of a channel. And now I'll just true up both the outside and the inside edges of that piece. To turn that into poles, I'm just going to slice off a bunch of 3/4 inch wide pieces. Now I am stopping the saw in between these cuts, which will hopefully reduce the chance of the piece getting caught between the stop block and the blade. I decided to add a little angle to the corner of these. I probably should have beveled the edges of the whole long piece, but this works. So I'm just using my miter sled to do this. And I'm adding an 1/8 inch roundover to make them more comfortable. Now I'm pre-drilling for where the screws go. And I'll just hold those on with some 1.5 inch wood screws. Now you might have already caught on, but the reason I cut all those little slots in those sides is so these drawers can be rearranged. So you can rearrange these to almost any imaginable configuration. So now they're done and I just need to fill them.